Hey, yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to my channel. Now, this is my small wheelbase self-built Peugeot Boxer camper van, which I have had for a little over 3 years now. And ever since I've owned the van, I've had this niggling thought in the back of my head: could I make van life work for me permanently? Now, I do have a mortgage, so this video is basically going to be me weighing up van life versus fixed abode life, and the pros and cons of van life, my pros and cons of van life. So yeah, I'm gonna get a coffee on the go and I'm gonna get straight into it. So yeah, let's go. Right, so coffee's made. Cheers. Free brownie from Lidl from yesterday. That's breakfast sorted. Let's get into it. Right, so I'm gonna start off with the pros, my personal pros of van life full time. Obviously the first one being money. You're gonna have no rent, or mortgage. You're gonna, save so much there. Obviously that goes along with having no bills, no council tax, no water, etc. The score with bills. I don't really need to elaborate too much on bills, do I? So yeah, you're gonna be saving a lot of money. I suppose another pro would be the freedom to roam, which would be my biggest one. Ever since I've had a camper van, that's been the biggest sort of dream to me, to roam freely, to have the time to go and explore more places, without the constraints of having to get back to work. So that would be the biggest one for me. Now I started climbing mountains in 2023. I climbed my first mountain, and for some reason or another I've just got the bug for it. It's a way of me kind of testing myself. I'm not into running or cardio really, but I kind of like mountains, I like hiking, I like climbing. I've kind of got the bug for it, and I like to test myself. That's the way I like to test myself. So that would be my dream, to just go and travel around Wales for 3 or 4 weeks and climb loads of mountains. Same with Scotland, but eventually I'd like to go on to Europe, and Dolomites would be a dream. That's kind of on my bucket list. So yeah, that would be the biggest thing for me. That's what's kind of selling it to me, and that's what kind of clicked in my head to get a van in the first place. So I've ticked off the big three in the UK. So yeah, going forward, that's what I want to do: climb more mountains. But yeah, anyway, back to more pros. So yeah, the freedom to roam would be the biggest one for me. I suppose you've got no ties. You can just, if anywhere's like rubbish, you can just move on to the next place. So yeah, that's a big one as well. Like, which I do on holiday really, or I have done. I haven't yet, because everywhere I've been has been pretty cool. But if you're on holiday and you don't like a place, you can just, pack your stuff away and move on to the next place, can't you? So that's definitely a pro. You're closer to nature, I suppose. Like now, I'm just in a lay-by here, very quiet. Got some sheep in the field out there. You can just sort of hop out of your van, and I think that's sort of glamorized in YouTube videos. A lot of people hop out their vans and there they are. But I suppose to a degree it is like that. Like, I've just got this nice field here, sheep out there. So yeah, that's another pro. You're kind of closer to nature, and that goes back to the freedom to roam, I guess, where I'm just saying, like, I could now be waking up somewhere and start a hike up a mountain. So yeah, that's the biggest win for me. So yeah, that's a pro, obviously. And then I suppose another pro is you haven't got so much to clean up, have you, really? Like, it's not like a big house, so you've got a little space to clean. So yeah, that's always a pro, isn't it? Like, who really likes cleaning? So yeah, little space to clean, and yeah. But I suppose the biggest one, like I say, is the freedom to roam, and money and bills, etc. So you know, you could obviously save quite a lot of money. But then again, that's if you've got a job where you can, you know, take your job on the road. Mine is a fixed job where I go to work every day and, you know, I do my job and I go home. I can't like do my job from all over the country. Do you know what I mean? So that's a con, but I'm going to get into the cons in a minute. But, you know, that's, yeah, that's some of the biggest pros, I guess. So, yeah, but the biggest one for me is the freedom to roam. I'd really like to do that. But at some point, you know, I'll probably take some time off work, hopefully, and like a month or a bit longer, and go and do what I want to do. So, yeah, tick that off. I think with me, I'm getting to an age now where I just keep thinking to myself, if I don't do it soon, the years keep going by so quick, I'm going to, suddenly before I know it, I'm going to be too old to, not necessarily too old to do these things, but my body's not going to be as comfortable with doing these things as it is now. I'm relatively fit. I think I keep sort of a pretty healthy lifestyle. Cut right back on drink. So yeah, I think now is the sort of time for me to be thinking about doing something like that. So yeah, hopefully in the upcoming months or odd upcoming years, yeah, that's my plan. That's my game plan. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers pros. I mean, there probably is some more pros, but they're my main ones, I guess. So let's get into the cons. Before I get into any cons though, let's have this brownie from Lidl. Now, I'm sure he's not going to watch my channel, but I do watch our Van Tales, who rants about these quite a lot. And I must admit, this is generally my first one. And yeah, if for some reason you are watching this, Andy, which I very much doubt, you'll bang on about the brownies, mate. Lovely. Right, so let's get into the cons of full-time van life. So once again, these are all my personal cons. You know, you probably have got different opinions, which is fair, you know, fair enough. So yeah, I'm going to get into the cons. Now, I suppose one of the biggest ones would be finding park-ups. So now finding spaces, I've done a couple of Park for Nights now, done a couple of videos of them, which, you know, I didn't find them to be too bad, but that's literally, I've only done like 2 or 3. So, you know, finding one on a regular basis. But I suppose then you'd probably just have, you know, favourites that you go to, and I've seen other YouTube videos where people sort of rotate their spaces. So yeah, I suppose cons would be finding park-ups where you're not going to get bothered or harassed or anything like that. So, you know, yeah, I suppose that's a con for me, finding park-ups all the time. And a con as well would be I would have to find them, you know, quite close to work, because like I've mentioned, I do have a sort of fixed working environment. So I'm not able to take my job on the road. Like I don't, you know, work on a laptop or anything like that. So I have to go to work, do my job, then go home. So yeah, that would be a sort of con as well. I'd have to like keep finding places quite close to work. So I don't want to travel too far to work. So yeah, that's a con. Living in a small space, that's another con. Like, you know, I feel I could do it, but it would be, you know, it would be a con really. So I suppose you get used to it, but yeah, that would be a con to me, like living in such a small space. I think the biggest thing would be basically sort of the winter time for me would be a real killer. I am a bit of a fair weather camper. I don't really go in my van much in the winter. I tend to go away in October. In a couple of weeks' time, I'm going away in the van, so just to North Norfolk. So got a few nights up there, which I will film. But yeah, so I think winter would be the killer for me. So that's definitely a con, winter. You know, I know you can get diesel heaters and etc., but it would definitely be a con for me, winter. So yeah. Getting rid of things as well. You'd have to get rid of all your belongings, I suppose, which, you know, in hindsight could be a pro as well. That could be a pro, but you know, being more minimalist, you know what I mean? Yeah, so that could be good, like, you know, freeing yourself of all of them belongings that you don't really need. I mean, I've got loads of stuff that is just in a cupboard and I'm not sort of using anymore, you know. Got DVDs, like, I just can't sort of bear to get rid of them, really. I just sort of think, oh, it's a bit of a waste. Go to a car boot or a charity shop now, they're going for like 20p or something stupid, but I don't really want to, you know, just get rid of them. But yeah, toilets and washing would be a con, obviously. Although I'm sure I'd be able to cope, but I suppose toilet wouldn't bother me so much. It would be more showers. I don't really want to join a gym just to have a shower. I know a lot of people do that, and fair play, you know. That's not really for me, just joining a gym to go and have a shower. So yeah, hygiene, you know, is obviously a con. I could get over that, obviously, but, you know, it's got to go down as a con, really. So address. You know, what do you do for an address? If you've got a cool network of family and friends or whatever, I suppose you can use them possibly as a care of address. But, you know, it's another con for me, an address. Some people might not want you on their, you know, using their address, which is fair enough, you know. So, yeah, that goes down as a con for me, address. What else have we got? I've got to admit, if I do keep looking down a little bit, I have got some notes here, so in case I did forget everything. So, yeah. What if you break down? That's a big one for me as well. Like, I've mentioned that in one of my previous videos. You know, I've always had fears of breaking down. And if you break down and you live in your van, then, you know, to me, you're totally screwed. What are you going to do? You either got to go and sofa surf on at some friends, or you've got to get a hotel or a travel lodge or whatever. And these are all problems that you'll deal with if you have them, obviously. But, you know, to me, that's a con again. If you break down, you know, and this is your home, you're screwed. You know, I have watched a couple of videos where people have broken down and, you know, they're sort of in a right mess, but they made it work, you know, and you'd make it work, I guess. But to me, that's a con. So, you know, age as well is a big one for me. Like, your age, like, if you do van life full time, how long are you going to do it for, you know? And if you haven't, to me personally, if I haven't got anything to go back to, because I wouldn't want to be doing it in retirement age. I wouldn't want to be doing it in my 60s. Do you know what I mean? Like, so that's a major big one for me. So something to go back to, I would be a must for me, like a mortgage, a house to, you know, retire into. I certainly couldn't retire into a van, I don't think. You know, unless my thought process changes in the months to come. But, you know, I understand some people have no choice. The cost of living and et cetera, is too much, and they have no choice but to live in a van. But, you know, I'm sort of a bit more fortunate than that, and luckily, I'm very lucky to be a bit more fortunate than that. So, yeah, that would be a big one for me. So, once again, that would be a con for me. You know, so the end game is to retire and have my house, I guess, and have a van that I can keep travelling about in. So still have a van when I retire, and yeah, have more freedom then, no restraints from work. So yeah, that's a con, obviously. And also on the flip side of that, if anything happens to me, I've got the house and there's something to leave my son, you know, like some money or whatever. I never had that, so it would sort of leave a little bit for him, you know, give him a little bit of a head start in life, which I would hope he would put towards a mortgage, and that would give him a bit of a, you know, head start on a property ladder. So yeah, that's another con. So yeah, I think, you know, all in all, that's probably my pros and cons of van life versus a fixed abode. So I love the thought of doing it, and at some point I would probably, you know, really like to take possibly a sabbatical or a couple of, you know, months off work and go and travel. And that is my dream, and that is what I'm looking to do at some point in the not too distant future. Travel around Scotland, Wales, climb some mountains, then Europe, you know, France. Ultimately the dream would be to get to the Dolomites. So yeah, that's the dream anyway. yeah, so I think that's about it really. I'm very fortunate enough to be in a position where I can sort of live the best of both worlds. I guess I've got a van and I've got a house, and I'm not being arrogant there or cocky. I hope no one thinks like, you know, oh, look at him boasting, because that's not the case. You know, I work hard, and yeah, I'm lucky to sort of, at the minute, I'm living the best of both worlds, I guess. So, and I know it's not you know, the same for everybody. So, you know, there's people are out there. I take my hat off to you, who are doing it full time. I would like to, but I think for me, there's just too many cons really. So, yeah, at the minute, I'll be, you know, a part-time van life. Although you probably don't like people saying van life as if they're not full-time van lifers. But anyway, I'm going to cut this one now. So yeah, thanks for watching if you've got this far. Thanks for all my new subs, past subs. You know the score. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. My next few videos are going to be slightly different. I've got a graffiti video coming up and Norwich Cathedral. So it's going to be slightly different to this one. And then I'm on holiday. I'm going to Tenerife. So there might be some footage from that. And then I'll be back and I'll be doing the North Norfolk. I'm away in the van. So yeah, look out for those videos. Thanks again. Have an awesome day. Adios amigos, and I'll catch you on the next one.